one of the most horrific things you can do.
His life was taken in a senseless and brutal manner.
Horrific crimes left unsolved.
You know, you have a lot of different scenarios run through your head. Could it be this person? Could it be that person?
And families forever changed.
I was 13 when my mom passed away.
Just come and tell me what happened to my son. That's all I want to know.
We're sharing these stories hoping you can help us solve this unfinished business.
Any cold case can be solved. No one's perfect.
In this episode, we take a look back at the case involving Sandra Yeoman, who went missing in May of 1974 at just 13 years old as she walked to the bus stop in Thonotosassa, Florida.
As we move into this season of Unfinished Business, we're going to continue our format of unpacking different cases in each different episode with a hope to shine light on the case, a hope to inspire somebody who would come forward with that critical piece of information that we're looking for. And before we get into the investigation around Sandra, I would love to bring you guys in. You're her sisters, Iris and Roxanne. I'd love to start off back in 1974. What do you remember from back then? And I just want to get an idea of who your sister was to you.
Okay. Good morning. My name's Iris Morton. In 1974, I would have been about 5 years old. And to answer your question, I cannot answer your question because I don't have a sense of who she was. I just know that I had a sister. I know that she was there. I know from a small recollection that I have and from what others have told me that I used to meet her and greet her every day at the bus stop when she would get home. And on this particular day, she never came home. And I would have gone back to tell my parents that she wasn't there. And that's as far as I have a memory of her. And that's the part that makes this whole story, this whole mystery, this whole case difficult for me, because I don't have the answers to your question of who my sister was and what she meant to me, because I don't remember that. I don't have that. I know she was there, but I don't have an image of her. I don't have any intimate relationships. I don't have any moments that we shared together.
It must really feel as though you have been robbed of the life in which you all could have had.
Yeah, it's not even necessarily robbed. I just feel that there's an emptiness. There's a missing piece. I'm not complete because there's someone that should be in my life that's not, and I don't have answers. And no one seems to have those answers. When you're robbed of something, it's something that you know that you had that someone took from you. I don't feel or know that I actually had her. I just know she existed, but I don't have any connection other than that. However, I do know that there's a missing part of my life because there's an absence of someone who I know should be there, and I don't know why she's no longer there. And I'm looking for some resolve and some answers. So as much as you're asking me answers, I'm asking the detective answers. I'm asking the community answers. I'm asking family and friends answers because I don't have those.
How did this experience, from what you are able to recall, shape your childhood? How did it impact your parents? Are there moments when you look back and you realize that they were struggling with looking for those answers as well?
Ideally, I'd like to answer that with a lot of emotion. I'd like to answer that with some clarity. I was only 5, and during that time, there was a lot of misinformation that I wasn't aware of until later in life. So we were living with godparents that I assume was my biological parents. There's a lot of, There's a lot of complicated twists and turns and people involved in this. But what I can say is, from my understanding, my godmother did make a police report. There was no follow-up to the police report, and I don't know why or why that was the case. Over the years, my younger sister Roxanne and I have tried to locate Sonia, have tried to get information. We grew up, unfortunately, in the foster care system. So we didn't really have a connection initially either. we had no connection with our biological mother until later in life. And unfortunately, once again, she was unhelpful in us locating Sonia. There's a huge background to that. I don't know if we have much time for that for the podcast today, but there's a lot of people that was involved in Sonia's life and in our lives that led us to believe things that weren't true. And it's only now as adults that we're coming to understand that those truths that we were giving are now untruths. Sonia's name was completely different. Our names was completely different. So as far as how it impacted our families' lives, I don't know. But for us as sisters, and once we came together out of the foster care system, we realized we have to find our other sister. There's someone else out there that belongs to us. There's someone that we belong to. And as much as the odds are against us, we're not going to give up, and we're not going to lose hope.
How do you continue to carry that resolve, and how do you, with so few answers and so many pieces of misinformation that you're trying to decipher, how do you move forward with carrying that torch for your sister?
I move forward because I look at my life. I look at my sister Roxanne's life. And I look at the beginning of how we came in. And against all statistics, we shouldn't be here. We shouldn't. The odds were stacked against us on our entry into the universe. But we managed, we made it, we have kids, we've had successful careers. So because I look at my life, I look at my sister's life, I think there is a way that Sonia could exist. There is a way that she could be here. There's also the alternative that she couldn't be here, and I'm okay with that too. But because I live in a space in my own personal life of hope, I was a social worker for over 25 years, so I've worked with many families. I've worked with many families who've lost loved ones, either through tragic instances or through medical instances. So I think my vocation in the world is to help people and to empower people. And in order for me to do that for others, I have to do that for myself. So it keeps me going to know that one way or the other, we'll find answers, because I've seen it happen in other people's lives. And my life is just a little different. It's no worse, it's no better, but it's just a little different. So I'm very hopeful, I'm very positive. And even in being positive, I will accept the inevitable, which means she's no longer here.
Well, in order to find those answers, we have to go back to 1974 and that day in May. So, Dan, would you walk us through what we do know? And we'll just start at there.
As Iris said, Sandra and Iris and their brother Jeffrey lived with their foster parents, Leroy and Laretha Yeoman. Back then, I guess it was not uncommon that Sandra was born Sonia Burgess, and they changed her name when she entered the foster care system. They lived in a trailer north of Rock Hill Road, between Bradley Road and Tom Folsom Road. They were just going through their normal lives. Sandra, on May 20th, 1974, woke up like she did every day. She got ready for school. She was finishing up 7th grade at Slime Middle School. She got ready. She had left the residence. She had to walk approximately 40 yards to her school bus stop, which was on the northwest corner of Bradley Road and Rock Hill Road, which this church is still there, and she never made it. According to the witnesses, like Iris said, she was told that she used to walk up to the school bus every day after school to get her sister, to probably walk back and just to see her sister and see how her day was, and she never got off the school bus. So Iris went home, told her foster parents, and that started the wheels of reporting her missing, looking for her unsuccessfully. And here we are 50 years later almost, and she's never been found. Thonotosassa is a very small, tight-knit community. I've been out there only a number of times. I went out with Roxanne a couple weeks ago. In 3 trips, we've met 4 families that were still residing there from 1974 that remember them, that remember the family, remember some of the circumstances. They definitely remembered Iris. And you don't see that much in the Tampa area, the people that have been there forever. And to this day, they remember, which is absolutely amazing, almost coming up on 50 years. So they reported her missing. There was a local deputy that worked back then. We talked to that gentleman who's retired. He still lives in the neighborhood. We talked to a couple families, like I just mentioned, to get more detail. About a year ago, you got in touch with us, and then we started working on our end. A lot of research, and we've got to the point where we do have a person of interest. He did reside in the area. Based on that person's background and the interviews that we've done, he wasn't a good guy, and he committed a lot of crime in his life. So that's where we're at this stage of investigation. Back when this occurred in 1974, 301 was not what 301 is now. If you look on a map, 301 is right where Rock Hill Road is. It's only a couple feet. 301 wasn't popular. It wasn't a big trucker's route. There was not a big transient community. 75 was not built up there, up north yet. So we're pretty confident that whatever happened to Sandra, if anything happened, there's still hope that she's still alive and still with us. But if somebody had something to do with it, it was somebody from the neighborhood, because it was 8:30 in the morning on a Monday in May. And so that's where we lead our investigation from.
With so few details from 50 years ago, and as you said, this is not a case that is any kind of homicide case. At this point, it is a missing persons case. What do you need to take this case forward?
The tragedy of her missing is 90% of the case. The other 10% is that Iris and Roxanne do not remember. I mean, obviously, Roxanne wasn't alive yet, but they don't know what their sister looked like. They do not have a picture. Because of the way they were in foster care, there was no pictures. We've been to the school district. We've been to the library. We've done some historical research, internet, open source stuff, private databases. We've also had some internet sleuths looking for us for photos. My first goal is to try to find a picture, a school photo. I've been to both Thonotosassa Elementary, where she resided. She went before she got the slide. We went to slide. They don't have any old yearbooks. The main school district doesn't have any yearbooks from back then. There is not a photo attached with the missing persons report or her school records. We have both of those. But we're continuing to work, and that's my first goal, and obviously their first goal. My first goal is, as the human side of me, is to let them remember or see what their sister looked like. It's tragic enough when somebody is gone missing or is unfortunately a victim of a murder, but when you have no memories of what they look like, if you had relatives that pass away, people keep voice messages on phones because they want to remember what they sounded like, and as time goes by, they can't remember. So to put it in a human aspect, the human condition, if you don't know what somebody looks like, it's horrifying. On top of the missing, which is another world of horror. So,
what would that mean to you guys for someone to come across a photo in their shoebox of memories that they kept from 50 years ago and be able to give you guys a glimpse of that memory of what your sister looked like?
I'd let Roxanne answer that. What would that mean to you?
Joy, peace, closure, and knowing. Just a relief. A relief that all the years that we spent doing this with no help, and now that we have Dan, who's helped us tremendously, because before we was like at a dead end, trying to put the puzzle together. We're not what you guys are, so it's like we can only do so much. But I kept trying, especially I don't know, never matter, wasn't around, but here I am out here with my sister trying to support her and help her to remember someone who she was raised with, and myself having love for someone who I've never met. So for me, I feel like it's a pat on the back. Well, well job done. I'm, with researching. I would just feel happy, overjoyed that I've helped solve a case for someone that I've never met.
And I think for me, having a box of photos, it would humanize her. It would give me an understanding of who she was even at that time, and maybe bring back some memories of moments we shared together. If I was to see a photo, maybe that would jar something in my memory. It would unlock something that's always been there. But I think it would put a more human aspect on her, because right now she's there, but it's more just a silhouette of a person. There's no blue striped shirt. There's no black shoes. There's no blonde or brown hair. There's no smell of her. There's no favorite clothing that she would wear. There's no, does she look like myself? Does she look like Roxanne? So to see photos would just bring that humanistic impression to me, and just give me a face and give me a memory, and to say, yeah, she was a real person. It's not someone that I've made up or what someone has told me over the years. Because sometimes I'm very careful to try to separate my memory from a false memory of what someone has told me has happened or who she was, as opposed to what I know for myself. And sometimes that's not easy to do, because over the years people tell you so much, and you then start taking that on as your own memory. So to see a box of photos, wow, she was really here. I didn't make this up for 50 years. It wasn't something someone just told me. So that's what it would mean to me, that there's a human element to this. There's a real person that touched me at some point. So yeah.
I hope that, the public listening to this or watching this later will, if they were in that community, went to those schools, will take that to heart and to look through their things. It only takes a couple minutes for us to do something that would mean the world to you.
Yeah, and I do believe that there's someone out there. I honestly believe there's someone out there. She attended Thonotosassa Elementary for 3 or 4 years, from 68 to 72 or 71. There's someone there that sat in a classroom next to Sandra. There's someone that played on the playground next to Sandra. There's someone that had lunch with Sandra. She was in Thonotosassa Elementary School. She was at Slide Junior High School, where we've been told she had friends. She was in a talent show. She was going to be dancing. She was a nice girl. She was a funny girl. So there's someone at Slide Junior High in 73 or 74 that rode the bus with Sandra. Someone sat in a math class with Sandra. Someone sat in a home economics class with Sandra. Someone saw her walking down the hallways of Slide Junior High in 73 or 74. So there's someone out there that knows her. I know someone knows her.
And Dan, beyond just those photos, I'm sure speaking to those people who knew Sandra back then would be beneficial as well.
Any person calling us with any tidbit of information, no matter how small, is always helpful for a case, but especially with something like that. Every time they talk to somebody, that brings back not only the bad part of her missing, but a memory of her or a moment. Like this talent show thing has come up. We've spoken to a couple of her friends, and they talked about making making costumes, getting ready, the excitement for it. So that's still alive, because those friends are still in the neighborhood, and we've talked to them. And as they continue to talk to people, we talk, and we try to put everybody in touch with each other. To just separate for 1 second, because in cold case we deal with homicides, and we deal with historical missings. When someone's a victim of a homicide and we have somebody there that's deceased, a family gets closure. I've heard a number of times, you guys heard it this week, when you have a missing person that's missing person that's never found, that open wound never goes away. They cannot have closure. No matter, if you believe she's still alive, or you hope that she's lived a life and doesn't know who she was when she was a baby. But their wound, their opening, their non-closure is always there. They wake up every day and they go to sleep every night, excuse me, and they think about this. And I'm blessed personally that they were able to get in touch with us and to meet the family and work with the family. It's just the point of this wall is to get somebody else with some information. One photo, a class photo, not even a single photo, even a class photo with 12 other kids and a teacher.
Absolutely.
Would help us. So that's on our end. That's what we're hoping for.
Beyond the photo as well, And I know that there's probably not much you can say in order to not compromise the investigation at this point, but that person of interest that you mentioned, how do you take it from a person of interest to a suspect?
More evidence. This individual lived very close to the Yeoman residence. Doing our background checks on our investigation, on other investigations within the Tampa region, this individual was listed as a suspect on other missing cases. And he has an extensive criminal record dating back to the 1938, I believe. Violent human being. And that's where we're at with that gentleman. I hate to say gentleman, that individual.
Ladies, I know this has been quite a journey for you, and you know, we're hoping that one day we'll be able to offer you that closure. What has it like been working with Dan and working with HCSO for the last year? You said, you know, you feel like things are starting to progress, that we may be moving in a direction that is helpful for you.
I think it is starting to move. Although we've only been working with Dan for a short time, we have been involved with the Hillsborough County Sheriff since around 2010. Since around 2010, I actually started looking for Sandra in 1998, and then I got my sister involved around 2000, and we were doing what we can, and then around 2010 we contacted Hillsborough County Sheriffs, and initially it was good. We thought it was a good idea. We realized that we couldn't do this on our own. We needed law enforcement support. We needed law enforcement help because they had access and resources to things that we didn't. And then things sort of filtered out, and of course, you know, things happen. Officials change offices and things like that. But I can say, in working with Dan the last few months, I feel that we've made more progress than we did since we started this. And it makes a lot of difference to us because we're not a high-profile case. We're not even in the same state or in the same country. So with him making phone calls and emails to us, it makes us feel like he's invested. And that's what any family would want.
And that he cares.
And that he cares and he's invested, because again, we have nothing to work with. We have no tangible, we have no clothes, we have no photos, we have no telephone messages. We don't have any of those things. So he's really working with nothing, but he's invested and he's gone out of his way to contact people to, again, keep us abreast of what he's found out, with me through email, with Roxanne through, you know, telephone messages. And sometimes when you don't have the resources that other families have, and you're not on mainstream television, you tend to think that people forget you. You tend to think that people, you know, put your case in what we call file case 99, which is at the bottom. And I don't get that impression for Dan. I don't get that from him. I get that he's just as invested in our case as he is with his other cases. However, as I said to him, although we've been working with him for several months, I'd never met him. This was my first meeting the other day at the conference. But I have control issues. And I said to him, from the day we met him, I was very territorial, and I thought he was only our detective. He was only working on our case. But to hear some of the other families that he's working on their case, it makes me feel like this official, this detective gives his all to each one of his cases, and he makes each family feel like they're the only case. And for me, that's important, especially in my own profession. That's important when you're meeting and you're sitting with someone. That person on the other end wants to feel like they're the only person in your life at that moment in time. When you get up and you walk away, I don't care what you do or who you see, but when you're speaking with me, I want to feel like you understand me. And that's what I've gotten from Dan, over the telephone calls, over the emails, and now here in person. And I hope that wasn't too much for his ego this morning.
Well, she did say you have nothing. But when it comes to cold cases, there are typically, you know, a group of cases where there is less evidence, where there's less to work with. And we've talked about this numerous times, but it doesn't take much to get to the finish line.
It doesn't take much. It takes effort, the individual to call, and then us to work it out. If it's good information or bad information. Sitting here for the last 5 minutes listening to how it's supposed to be great I am. I'm not. I'm doing my job. But 3 years ago, the sheriff decided that the cold case unit was needed here at Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office. I believe it was a blessing that I happened to be looking for a job and moving to this great state of Florida. I believe that God has his hands in everything. I believe I'm here for a reason. And I'm not putting an ego in that. I'm saying I love this work, and this is what my job is. The benefit of having a cold case unit, like I mentioned before, a lot of agencies have active homicide detectives working cold cases, and it's really difficult because you don't know when a new case is coming in, and that has to be worked. The benefit of having a cold case unit is that the cold cases are a priority, and our only priority. We have nothing else to work on. And I don't mean that in a negative, I mean that in a very positive thing. And this is all time consuming. A lot of it is research, and which kind of an aspect of an active homicide. You work from the scene, from this crime scene out. In a cold case, you work from the book on your desk or the 4 books on your desk. And sometimes they're paper thin books or just a file, and you have to start from scratch. So to go back to this, it's just taking phone calls, taking information, and hopefully we get something positive out of it. Like I said, we're doing this for the sole purpose, the most important purpose of getting a photo of her first. Solving the case would be great with some other information, but let's start with a photo.
Ladies, as we wrap up, I would love to kind of give you guys the last word, a message to the community, anything you would like to say that I haven't asked you.
People, you can carry this for now.
I'm supporting you.
I would just like to say, if there's anyone out there that has any recollection, or if you think you know someone, or if you feel that this case even interests you to want to be involved or want to work with us or support us, we're open to that. But we also want to know anyone who went to Sly Junior High School in 73, 74, any teachers, any students, if you knew of another student or if you had a friend or a relative, get in contact with the detective in the Hillsborough Sheriff's County. And I just know that someone knows her. Someone knew her, someone knows her, someone knows something that maybe they don't even know that they know. And that's all we're asking. And as Dan said, for us, a photo would be great. But even if you don't have a photo, but you have a memory of her, or you know someone that may know her in the community, in the school, we don't care how large or how small that piece of information is, because it's important to us as the family members. And it also is important to Dan, who's doing the work, because as much as, he's the law enforcement and he's working, he also needs support from the community. He also needs support from us. This is a team effort. We're working in tandem together, and it's a wraparound. And we need the community of Thonotosassa, the community, Thonotosassa Elementary, and Sly Junior High. So anyone out there has any information or think you have anything, please contact Dan.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
These cases aren't just stories, they're real lives and real people. Your voice could be the missing piece in this puzzle. If you have information on this case or any other, please contact the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office at 813-247-8200. To submit a tip anonymously, call Crime Stoppers of Tampa Bay. Join us next time as we continue our journey to uncover the truth and bring these families the closure they have been waiting for. Until then, stay vigilant and keep seeking justice for these families. Unfinished business.